Yep, there you go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian,
And I'm Musa Ali.
and we are doing the SolarWinds cyber attack. So let's get started. Okay, so who are SolarWinds? SolarWinds is a major provider of software solutions for IT infrastructure management. They have a strong presence in the private sector and government. Their software is designed to monitor and optimize network systems, and IT services, and they provide real-time data and analytics to support operational efficiency. One of their key products are the Orion platform, which is their flagship product. The Orion is used for like network performance monitoring and IT asset management. This software is used by thousands of organizations around the world, including like major US government agencies and enterprises. Um, SolarWinds, their core business model is to sell IT monitoring and management software. Um, they also provide a variety of products for managing security and making sure they're like a critical vendor in the IT ecosystem. Um, the company was founded in Austin, Texas in 1999, and that's where they are headquartered.
Nice.
So for summary of events, in 2019, in September, attackers gained initial access to SolarWinds internal systems. They likely exploited like a vulnerability in their network through like phishing. At this time, SolarWinds was not like completely like aware that the breach happened. In February of 2020, attackers implanted like a malicious backdoor called Sunburst in the SolarWinds software development system. The code was designed to be hidden inside the updates of SolarWinds Orion software, which is, like I said, widely used by enterprises and government agencies for IT performance and network management. In March of 2020, SolarWinds released a routine update for their Orion software, not knowing that it contained a Sunburst backdoor. This update was distributed to around like 18,000 customers, and it was widespread deployment that made the attack so significant. In December of 2020, SolarWinds was first notified of the breach by FireEye, a prominent cybersecurity firm that discovered it while they were investigating its own cyber breach. Upon further investigation, SolarWinds realized that the Sunburst malware had been embedded in the software updates, affecting not only its systems but also the systems of many of its customers. SolarWinds then worked to release an emergency fix and patch the vulnerability. So for the impact of the users and organizations, since the SolarWinds breach had a far-reaching consequence on both the government agencies and private corporations that relied on the software. The attackers had the ability to access sensitive data and infrastructure, and in some cases, the attack remained undetected for months. Um, it affected about 18,000 customers um, who downloaded the malicious Orion software update, but not all of them were actively compromised. The attackers primarily targeted the subset of high value victims, which included government agencies and private companies with critical data. Notable victims were the U.S. government agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the Department of Treasury, and many others. These agencies hold critical national security and financial data, making their compromise pretty alarming. Some private sector companies that were affected were Microsoft, FireEye, Cisco, Intel, and Deloitte. Um, these were the companies that were targeted. These organizations are leaders in the tech industry and the cybersecurity space, and their breach represented a severe compromise of intellectual property and operational security. Um,
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
If we can go on to the next slide. Yeah, so to add to what Brian said, like who were responsible for these attacks and which method did these attackers used? And the attack was attributed to Manipulum Group, which is a sophisticated state-backed Russian group that Microsoft finally named as the primary designation of SolarWinds attack in 2021. And they are also known as the APT-29, which are believed to be associated with the Russian intelligence service. And the group is active against multiple victims, not just the big organizations, uh, not just the big organization that Brian just mentioned, but also the other smaller companies too. And they used the malware that was called Sunburst. Sunburst is the name of the actual malicious code that injected was planted by the attackers into the SolarWinds Orion IT monitoring system code, which is an interesting one because if your own company is sending updates to you to machines to get updated and you have this code embedded in it, it did a huge damage across all these major organizations and government agencies that Brian already mentioned. The other target was also critical infrastructure organization by using the SolarWinds Orion IT management platform for all these code injections. Um, Also, the initial attack vector appeared as a US-8 account, which infiltrated accounts with phishing emails that users clicked on that would deploy a backdoor Trojan to steal all these users' information, further granting these group access to a lot of devices and systems. Next slide, please. So, which key ways could have been taken to prevent these attacks? And one of the major security measures that were set in place was to strengthen the supply chain security by auditing third-party software. Also to deploy periodic updated security patches and also operate the US government at that time um, issued companies to operate with a software bill of material as bomb to track software companies and risk of newly discovered vulnerabilities, and also to enhance threat monitoring with behavior-based detection using software as a service tools, and also increasing hardening requirements and limit internal access for employees, whereby like only give users access to what they need to have, and rather than having users have access to a broad range of resources that they don't need. And also to implement and improve network segmentation to isolate critical networks infrastructure and assets. Next slide, please. So, with the recovery and lesson learned, the incident response was with Microsoft and FireEye. They activated a kill switch to Sunburst malware, where it neutralizes it by turning the domain used by the backdoor malware using the Orion update in the in hacking of the SolarWinds systems. The kill switch served as a mechanism to prevent Sunburst from operating further. And also, Microsoft worked with FireEye and GoDaddy to block and isolate versions of the Orion software known to contain the malware to cut off the hackers from the customer system that they already had access to. And of course, there were government and industry action, which they also, as I mentioned earlier, they enforce software to use the S bombs as a mandatory, and with the legal and financial consequences, they face SolarWinds face a lot of lawsuits by the SEC, investigations, and other financial penalties, and the other ways to prevent this attack is to also adopt new cyber security measures, which is crucial to our current systems to prevent such attacks from happening in the future. And even though with all these new cybersecurity measures set in place, it's still supply chain attacks still remain a major threat in the cybersecurity space. Next slide, please. Even with all these new adoption of cybersecurity measures, there's no system, network, organization, or business in this world that is immune to supply chain attacks, and this remains a major threat today. And yeah, thank you all for watching this presentation, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
You want to hit stop record? Oh.